of the information that you're going to hear tonight may be a little bit difficult, so I ask you to express extreme caution as you hear this episode. Welcome to Cultured Unplugged, where the silence ends. I'm Uncle Chris, and on this channel, we uncover the real stories of hazing that institutions would rather bury quietly. Tonight, we're talking about a hazing death many people haven't heard. This is the story of Donnie Wade Jr., a college student whose life was taken while pledging a fraternity and whose family fought not just for answers, but for accountability. Before we begin, if you believe that no student should ever lose their future to a ritual called tradition, hit subscribe, share this episode, and check out the official Cultured Unplugged gift shop at culturedunplugged.com. We're the movement, support the movement, because hazing thrives in silence. And that silence, it is here. Donnie Wade Jr. was a 20-year-old biology major at Prairie View A&amp University, just northwest of Houston, Texas. He was described by friends as quiet, generous, and academically focused, someone with a future in science, not chaos. Like many young men, he wanted to belong. He wanted community. He wanted a future. That search for belonging led to him joining a fraternity, one with a long history and a culture that promised brotherhood. But what Donnie never knew was this was a pursuit of community would put his life in danger. In October of 2009, Donnie Wade participated in a hazing event linked to Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated while at Prairie View A&amp. At some point that morning, early, before most students would be awake, Donnie ran with other pledges behind the Prairie View High School track. As the run continued, Donnie began showing signs of extreme distress, difficulty breathing, fatigue, and even collapsing. While the exact conditions of the activity were contested, his family's legal complaint described a pattern of excessive drills, physical exertion, and a lack of proper monitoring. Eventually, Donnie collapsed and was taken to North Cyprus Medical Center in critical condition, but he never regained consciousness. The tragedy didn't just shake the campus, it sent shockwaves to the families who knew him. So let me just stop and just say that this young man went through the unthinkable of being pushed to the limits, physically, medically, pushed beyond what he should. And you've got these young men, as I'm reading this story, having to be a part of this activity, and no one knows his medical condition. Nobody knows he's ever had a medical issue, or that the activities that they're participating in, the members who are part of the organization with Phi Beta Sigma, is pushing this whole scenario. I talk about this young man because he was actually a story of a hazing case that occurred in the same year. As a matter of fact, if you remember in the last testimony episode that I put out there, Testimony 2009, this case happened in October of 2009, right? And I really should have really considered expressing or sharing my thoughts about this case, or even my case. Of course, it was just so tricky because everything was going on where I couldn't really say much. I was going through legal battle. I was dealing with basically, preparation for litigation. Okay, preparing myself to sue them, preparing for a criminal aspect of it as far as being a part of that process. So it was just too much going on at one time. And I remember this story came and I said, that could have been me. That could have been me. But at that time, it was just too much going on. But I look at his story as one of the most tragic stories that I've read. And none of them are very easy. And I think this particular young man just didn't really get a lot of a lot of like love. So he didn't really, his story didn't really make a whole lot of shockwaves as I thought it would. But this is why it needs to be told. It sent shockwaves, though, through the families who knew him. Donnie didn't die from an accident. He died from a series of decisions that treated a young man's safety as a secondary thought. Following his death, Donnie's parents, Donnie and Katrina Wade, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated and Prairie View A&amp University, alleging that the negligent hazing practices and the failure to protect pledges contributed directly to the loss of their son. The lawsuit described hazing conditions that included extreme physical activity without adequate oversight or medical consideration. People, do you understand? That's exactly what has been missing in terms of all these different initiations that organizations are having. Where's the oversight? Where's the transparency? As a parent, you're listening to this and you're saying that this is absolutely wrong. How could this be happening on a college campus or off-site on a college campus where students are supposed to be learning, being safe, having a good time, not worrying about being pushed to the limits that would essentially meet their death? That should be a wake-up call. So, as I'm reading here more into this, there was no adequate oversight or medical consideration. And it's a pattern of demeaning and dangerous behavior that had no place in an educational setting. They had no business doing the foolishness that they've done. Many of the same experiences that I also endured, that have led to just a series of medical ailments. So ultimately, the parties reached a settlement, which brought some financial resolution but could never restore life. The university also faced disciplinary action against the fraternity chapter, including suspension and probation, in recognition that the environment they allowed contributed to Donnie's death. So let's look at what this story shows. Donnie's death is part of a pattern of hazing fatalities that expose the culture of normalized harm. These aren't isolated incidents here that we're talking about, people. They're symptoms of a system that disguises risk as tradition. It rewards the silence over safety. And it definitely, most 100%, sidelines responsibility until someone dies. And it just kind of shows that when are the schools and organizations on a national level going to implement the suggested actions to take against hazing? There's preventative measures. You have to have an oversight board. You have to have someone policing the local chapters, because the ones that are on campus are the administrators who are also a part of the organizations, and they're not going to be fully investigative. They're not going to be fully forthright, and they're 9 times out of 10 they're going to be there. They are going to be there in those sets where these kids are being abused. You understand what I'm telling you? They are promoting it just as much. I don't know if I shared this yet on this podcast yet, but let me share something with you. Now, I personally didn't have this experience, but it was suggested, and I kind of left this out on the testimony. So if you're listening right now, you're in a good place, because I wanted to really drop this. But the process in terms of joining sometimes would be a requirement for you to go to another school, right? Another school from a different chapter, the same organization, you are entering their territory in someone's house, and guess who's at that house? Another little pledge line, who's also going through their own process to join the organization. And now both of you, two different schools, right? One set of pledges travels to the others, to the other chapter, to get abused, to get hazed. Could you imagine? You have to pull up on different schools, HBCUs, or different PWIs, traveling, together to get hazed. It's like this, I call it the hazing mill. That's exactly what it is. It's the hazing mill. It's where the abuse and torture is now crossing, in most cases, the state lines, across cities, across metropolitans. Okay, you could be from Norfolk State University up to, East Carolina or Elizabeth City. You could be going to different schools to go to those chapters because they're also online too. And that becomes a hazing spectacle that you don't even know about. That's what's happening. But hey, don't take it from me. I can only share what was verbally shared with me. That was going to be something we were going to be looking forward to. We didn't get that far in the process. At least I didn't get that far into the process to know that would actually happen. But it's already been shared. It's already out there. Across the United States, hazing has claimed way too many lives. And this is often in young men and women just like Donnie, just trying to belong. Some teen stories, like the death of Max Groover, which we talked about on my YouTube channel, at LSU, or even Timothy Piazza at Penn State, led to major legislative changes. Donnie's story in particular should remind us the toll isn't only numbers. It's the human futures, the families who have been devastated and are still grieving, and the dreams that are lost. This young man was robbed of his true destination, of his experience, of his future. And that's the type of stuff, these are the type of cases that we want to reflect on. Much respect and love to the Donnie Wade family. I haven't been able to reach them. I haven't actually made an attempt to reach them, but it's something that, I'd love to sit down and have a chat and to see how they are doing and processing after all these years. Something to think about. But what if Donnie had been heard? What if he'd been heard? What if his story got a chance to be told directly from him? What if a coach, a brother, or a campus official put safety first? Somebody saw something and they said something. We know better now than ever how dangerous hazing can be. But the culture of silence still protects institutions instead of students. If you are a student, a parent, a leader, a friend who's listening to this right now, as a survivor of hazing, I need you to know this. Hazing does not build character. This whole aspect of let me break you down to build you up is nonsense. It's the type of destructive abuse that you put yourself through, and you'll try to come up with every excuse on why you deserve it. For me, I told myself, you deserve everything that's happening to you because you did this person wrong in your past, or you did this bad thing, so now you gotta pay the price. I was self-abusing, I was self-sabotaging, I was putting myself through such great harm. But at the end of the day, what do I have to show for it? What do you have to show for it? It destroys safety. It destroys dignity. And in the worst case, your whole life. I've talked about Danny Santulli before on my YouTube channel. It was a young man who was going to, I believe it was Missouri. Yeah, it was either Missouri, no, Michigan. He was going to Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. And him being an intoxicated young man, bless his heart, over intoxicated, and they basically robbed him of his future, where he can't even sleep. He can't even talk or anything like that. He has to be taken care of for the rest of his life. But I bring this back to say Donnie Wade Jr.'s story should not be forgotten. It should make us ask, what does it take for us to prioritize human life over tradition? If you believe that hazing must end, subscribe to Cultured Unplugged on our YouTube channel. Follow us on TikTok. Share this podcast, this episode, with someone who needs to hear it. Join this community. I send my complete love and respect and family to the family and friends of those who knew Donnie Wade Jr. He did not deserve what happened to him. He should still be alive today, and he should still be remembered with dignity and class. For everyone listening, I thank you for listening to another episode. Please stay locked in with us for the next few episodes. Take a look again at my website at culturedunplugged.com. Please help support the movement. We're the movement. Join this community. And again, share this story. And remember, the official Cultured Unplugged is with you to share these stories out of focus to help bring these truths out of the shadows. Hazing survives in silence. And that silence, it ends here. This is where the silence ends.